Etymology and historical origin of the baby name Ernesto. Ernesto is the Italian, Spanish and Portuguese form of Ernest, which was adopted by the Old French from the Germanic language. In Old High German, the vocabulary word eornost stood for serious business, battle to the death. Today, the English vocabulary word earnest still means serious, intense, sober. Ernest, like Frederick, was brought to England by the Norman French in the 11th century, but it was not popularized until the early 18th century when King George I came to the English throne, hailing from the House of Hanover in Germany. In the 19th century play The Importance of Being Earnest, 1895, aptly subtitled A Trivial Comedy for Serious People, Oscar Wilde used the name Ernest for a character. One of the most famous name-bearers was Nobel Prize-winning author, the hard-drinking and adventurous living Ernest Hemingway, 1899 to 1961. The Italian, Spanish and Portuguese form of the name, Ernesto, seems to have been popularized around the 18th century as well. Personality of the boy named Ernesto. Romance is the hallmark of the six personality. They exude nurturing, loving, and caring energy. Sixes are in love with the idea of love in its idealized form, and with their magnetic personalities, they easily draw people toward them. Like the number 2 personality, they seek balance and harmony in their life and the world at large. They are conscientious and service-oriented, and a champion for the underdog. These personalities naturally attract money and are usually surrounded by lovely material objects, but their human relationships are always primary. They thrive in giving back to others rather than being motivated by their own desires. This is when they achieve great things. Sixes are natural teachers, ministers, and counselors. Popularity of the boy named Ernesto. Ernesto has had a place on the U.S. popularity charts since the late 1800s, most likely influenced by the Italian-American population first and then followed by the growth in the Hispanic and Latino populations later in the 20th century. While Ernesto has never been a widely used name, it has remained on the charts consistently and without fail for over 100 years. In the middle of the 20th century, an intelligent and handsome Marxist revolutionary by the name of Ernesto Che Guevara rose to prominence as a leader in Fidel Castro's successful efforts in overthrowing Cuba's government, although Guevara was Argentinian. He became a symbol to the growing counterculture movement taking place in America at the same time. It turns out that Che is a common nickname for Ernesto. In another cultural reference, Ernesto is the name of a character, tenor, in Italian composer Gaetano Donizetti's triumphant comic opera Don Pasquale, first performed in 1843. Ernesto is the nephew and heir to Don Pasquale's fortune, but he angers his uncle by refusing an arranged marriage to a wealthy lady. He's lovesick for another woman. A ruse is concocted to help Ernesto escape the wishes of his uncle, and the comedy ensues from there. Despite the light-hearted comedy of this still-played opera, Ernesto is a name of serious business. Quick facts on Ernesto. Gender, boy. Origin, Italian. Number of syllables, 3. Ranking popularity, 628. Pronunciation, Ernesto. Simple meaning, serious. Characteristics of Ernesto. Sensitive, humanitarian, affectionate, family-oriented, compassionate, community-minded, loving. Cultural references to the baby name Ernesto. Literary characters of the baby name Ernesto. Famous people named Ernesto. Ernesto Ferraz, Argentine soccer player. Ernesto Basile, Italian architect. Ernesto Miranda, criminal, responsible for the Miranda rights mandate. Ernesto Che Guevara, revolutionary. Ernesto Sabato, Argentine writer. Ernesto Geisel, former Brazilian president. Ernesto Che with tilde Fleur, flautist/composer.